Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. This is Vivek George from the World Trade Center. A very warm welcome to the ninth episode of our Discovery series. So, if you're new to the series, this is an initiative designed to help Indian entrepreneurs to gain first-hand experiences, insights on international markets. So, we focus one country at a time. I should say one country every month. So far we have featured UAE, Japan, Netherlands, Philippines, France, Nigeria, Australia, Vietnam, and today it will be Belgium. And if you need the recording of any of these, you can reach out to my colleague April Workey, who is here. Just text her and she will send the recording to your email ID. So as we turn our attention today to Belgium, I still remember a roadshow that we have done for hub.brussels some years back in Kochi. And I don't know whether we did it in Bangalore, but in Kochi, I remember, where, the title is Gateway to Europe. And today, I should say that, that is the exact intention or objective that the session has, that we will show you ways in which, you can take your business to Europe and how Belgium as a country can help you in that. And this session, as we titled Doing Business in Belgium, will take us through some business culture, some opportunities, and which are the emerging sectors. What are the do's and don'ts when you are entering into a foreign market, especially Belgium or Europe? What are the practical tips when meeting a person while making connections? So this conversation is going to be very casual. We will not have any typical PowerPoint presentations here. So we would encourage you to be active. If you have anything, you can put it in the chat box. If you have some questions, please feel free to put it in the QA button. Kanveer will be taking it either throughout maybe in between the conversation or maybe after the session. So we are privileged to have with us an esteemed panel of experts who bring in diverse perspectives and very deep expertise. So we have with us on Arbelian. I hope I pronounced this right. He is the area manager for Invest Asia hub.brussels. He is, he specializes in building economic bridges between Asia and Belgium. I understand he is based in Brussels. So he supports entrepreneurs in identifying opportunities. His profile is already there on your screen. So I'm not going to read it. But just to know that, hub.brussels is government's authorized trade support agency. So if you need anything to do with Brussels, I strongly recommend to reach out to them. We also have Dharani, as I call him. So Dharan Shivaswamy. So he's a foreign director, investment officer from hub.brussels. He's based in India. So he has extensive experience in facilitating cross-border investments. He works very closely with international businesses. I'm sure most of you know him by now. So he is there to support you grow into Belgium. We also have our dear friend Alex T. Koshi, who is a director at SAS Partners, Corporate Advisors Private Limited. He is based in Chennai, but they do have presence across India. So SAS is again a very strong partner for hub.brussels as well as Belgium. And they have in the past, and they continue to facilitate business requests and expansion projects of Indian companies into Belgium and Brussels particularly. So Alex is a seasoned advisor in corporate strategy, and he is a very critical player if you are seriously thinking of international expansion. So Alex has guided numerous Indian enterprises in navigating global markets, not just Brussels or Belgium. So I welcome An, Dharani, and Alex to this session. Let me also take this moment to welcome our moderator, our dear moderator, Kanveer Mundre, who is a podcaster and founder and chief ideation officer of Atharva Marcom India. So Kanveer is actually the person who is driving this, and I should thank Kanveer for all his time and efforts. I keep seeing him posting a lot of things, traveling around the world, but he has a special passion for business connects and facilitating business requirements. So he has his own style of engaging with people, and he comes with a very different insight. So I take this moment to welcome Kanveer as well to this session. As I said at the beginning, we are doing this together with the Bangalore Chamber. So BCIC is a strong, ardent supporter of World Trade Center in wherever we are present in India. So thanks to the committee, thanks to Shamand is joining here, Shamand SN, who is the vice chair for the BCIC's the vice chair for the expert committee for international business. I take this moment to welcome Shamand, the entire secretariat team, and also all the members of the chamber who has decided to be with us joining in this program. With that, I conclude, and on behalf of everyone here, I thank each one of you for joining us. As I said, please do make this interactive, engaging. Please put in your remarks, comments, suggestions, questions, so that we can take this conversation forward. With that, I now invite Mr. Shamant for a brief introduction, and I also request him to also set some context for today's conversation. Over to you, Shamant.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Vivek. I think it's always a pleasure to interact with Mr. Kanveer, because each time the podcast happens, I think this is what we always keep iterating. Here, the way he actually uncovers each country and seamlessly makes it like a puzzle free for all of us. I think that's the credit goes to Mr. Kanveer and also the World Trade Center for making this happen, and for all of you, primarily Bangalore Chamber of Industries and Commerce that I have been representing. We have been collaborating with the World Trade Center, primarily under the leadership of Vivek, where the Discovery Series is a jointly co-hosted initiative from both the organizations. For many of you who may not know what Bangalore Chamber is, Bangalore Chamber of Industry Commerce is basically an apex body, primarily which is of course based in Bangalore, but is a representation of close to about 900 member organizations across Karnataka. So the composition of the chamber is we have around 70% of the entities are basically MSMEs, the medium and the small scale industries. And at the same time, we have an ecosystem of 150 plus startups as well. And the rest is, of course, the comprising of the large enterprises. And these large enterprises come from, we also have the representation from the big fours, in fact, Grant Thornton and Deloitte as well. And at the same time, many Japanese organizations like Toyota, Mitsubishi, and Hitachi's primarily are part of, and in fact, the organization that I represent, Rakuten, is also a member of the BCIC. That's the kind of a composition that we have. And primarily, we are also celebrating the 50th year. So this is actually the Golden Jubilee year for us, which just got commenced from December of last year. So we are doing our 50th Golden Jubilee year celebrations. And in fact, we are also having the launch of the logo on 26th of February at Sheraton in Bangalore, which is also commemorating the 50th year celebrations as well. So broadly, to give a little bit of glimpse into what we do as a part of the chamber, primarily for the kind of services that we deliver across as a chamber to our member organizations, is one, we are focused on promoting and protecting the business interests of the member organizations, and that basically involves primarily be it your technology transfer, technology upgradations, and the R&D, facilitating the R&D ecosystems as well. And we are also becoming the entity to liaison up with the federal and the state government towards formulating the sectoral and the industrial policies. As I did say, it's a little bit of wide, a composition coming in from a wider diaspora. So we become the representative to talk to the government, both at a federal level and also at the state level, in order to facilitate the decision making process, and also to put forth the interface that needs to come on board. And the other part is primarily we have been involved in the B2B matchmaking as well, which is also primarily one of the key initiatives that we drive, where we also bring in the investor community, the VCs, and the venture capitalists as well, and also promote the B2B matchmaking between the various geographies. And of course, we have a very strong footprint in Japan. And we have also been facilitating, organizing seminars like what we do. The Discovery Series is one of them, workshops and interactions with the institutions and the domestic and the foreign businesses, and also with the academic fraternity. And we are also involved in issuance of certificate of origin and visa recommendation letters, because this is we take up overseas visit as a part of a delegation, and this is an area where we have been closely been working with. Now, as a chamber, we do have multiple memorandum of understandings that we have signed with. Primarily, we have it with the Australia India Chamber of Commerce, and then we have it with the Fraunhofer Institute of Software and Systems, which is in Berlin, Germany. And then primarily we have it with the Singapore India Chamber of Commerce and Industries. And then we have primarily with Japan, especially we have our offices in Tokyo. And recently we also signed up a memorandum of understanding with the Osaka Prefecture, primarily to increase the bilateral relationship between the Osaka Prefecture and Karnataka, primarily in the area of manufacturing and also pharmaceuticals and the biotech. And of course, we do have the collaboration with the World Trade Centers. A couple of them across. So primarily, when we are looking at, I understand that today we are talking about the Belgium, and in fact, when we are looking at the representation that we have as a part of the BCIC community, some of the key things what we would also probably seek your guidance from the fellow from the panelists over here is, I think, which would also enable for the BCIC community at large is if there can be some sort of practical guidance on the market entry, including regulatory hurdles, tariffs, and incentives for the firms in Karnataka, especially for the Belgium entry. And because the composition is where we have players from logistics, pharma, and the tech sector, so that would really be helpful. And then, as Vivek already talked about that, recently India also signed the ECTA, which is the FTA with the European Union, and we understand that Belgium would also become like the gateway entry for the European gateway with emphasis on trade and agreements. So if there can be some sort of an insight that can be brought in terms of what would be the role of Belgium in terms of a gateway entry to Europe itself, primarily be it on supply chain or opportunities or investment climate, and especially for the Indian exporters, I think that would really be helpful. And also, if with regard to, the events that could be coming up, like the networking, primarily we did understand that there's the Belgo-Indian Chamber, and which is also involved in conducting B2B connections, joint ventures, and delegation opportunities. So if those kinds of insights can also be brought in as a part of this particular deliberation, I think this is going to be really be valuable to all the participants over here, and also to the BCIC community and the diaspora, which is actually participating on this particular call. And I think that's going to be really be valuable. And in fact, just to sum it up, we are also, as a part of the ECTA, we are looking to organize one more primarily a session at the BCIC, where we would like to bring in all the European Union countries to primarily to come together and help us out in understanding what this particular ECTA stands across and what kind of a benefit this actually brings across between the respective European Union countries and India. And this is something that we are looking to organize sometime by end of March. And I think I would like to welcome the members from Belgium to also join that, which would be happening in the end of March, where we'll be sending out the invitations. And primarily, which would again, we would like to have the collaboration with WTC in that particular regard. And with this, I think I would like to, primarily sum up my two words, and I would like to hand it over to Karanveer and Mr. Vivek, please. Thanks a lot, and thank you very much.
Vivek,
No, I was just waiting for you to start. Thanks, Raghunandan. We appreciate all the efforts
Thank you.
of over to you, Kanveer.
okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Shamant. That was an amazing introduction, and thank you so much for your kind words. Also, now that you've told us all the things that you're celebrating, I hope I'm going to get some of the invitations to your 50th, and look forward to that. But coming to Belgium, it's amazing how personal Belgium is to me, and I don't haven't told this to a lot of people. Uh, Many in my school time, I had a very bad accident. I had a head-on collision with a car. I was on a cycle, and I had a head-on collision, and I broke my leg so badly that there were chances of amputation. And it was I saved myself from that, but it was 5 6 months of really bad and painful hospital uh, stay. And whenever the nurse would come in and had to do some painful procedure, my mother would hand over to me a comic, and I would read that comic, and it would help me to get over the pain. And that comic was Tintin. And Tintin is actually later in life I realized that he's a Belgian by her. It's actually a Belgian person who has written this. And then when I went to Belgium, I was so excited because I had literally grown up through all these painful times and happy times reading Tintin, and I collected all the 24 or 30 titles of Tintin. So Belgium is actually like really close to my heart. But the one thing which my friends always my Belgian friends got very perturbed or angry with me is if I ever went to McDonald's and I called the fries French fries. And that is a bigger crime than anything else that you would ever do in Belgium. To go into a place and call it, because apparently the fries are actually invented in Belgium, and the correct idea is to call them Belgium fries. So a very interesting country which has kind of kept itself slightly quiet, not so well probably marketed, a huge amount of culture, and especially now, Mr. Shaman mentioned trade and the FTA. I don't think there could be a better moment to discuss Belgium because with the recent signing of the mother of all trade deals, the European FTA, it's the opportune moment to, look at Belgium as a place. Belgium is also a very interesting place. In some ways, it's very similar to India. It has multiple languages. It has almost 5 governments inside. You have the federal government, the Flemish government, the Wallonian government, the Brussels, the German-speaking community. So it's very diverse. It's actually what we call unity in diversity. It's somewhat similar to that. So I really look forward to this conversation of understanding Belgium. And probably I'll start with, Alex, who can, one thing which we all discussed in a pre conversation was don't confuse Belgium with Brazil. A lot of people think that we are talking at the end of the conversation, they think we have talked about Brazil. No, this is Belgium, the gateway to Europe, in the heart of Europe, with Brussels as the capital and the European capitals. So, Alex, take it away with tell us about how Belgium is often pitched as the gateway to Europe, and from your experience, how does it make sense for an Indian MSME?
Yeah, thanks, Kanwir. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here, and I must congratulate the World Trade Center and the Bangalore Chamber of Industries and Commerce to put something like this together, which definitely gives a very good orientation for somebody who wanted to look at international markets. And I'm very glad to hear that we are going to head on to the 10th webinar next time. So my congratulations to the whole team, and especially to Kanveer. When we connected yesterday, it was very nice to know about the way in which you want to do this webinar. So with an intent to sort of bring out more practical perspectives of how we look at it. Once again, thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. Your question was more about when an Indian SME look at expanding to Europe and Belgium comes to their mind. what is that they should really be considering, right? You're right. In terms of marketing as a narration, we often hear Belgium as a gateway to Europe. That means a lot. That means a lot in the sense that when we talk about Belgium, we are not just talking about its market size, right? So typically, when we want to expand the international market, we pick up that one particular country and look at that country and say that, okay, there are a lot of opportunities for us there and let's go there. I don't think that is how Belgium is positioned in the international arena. When they look at international business, it's a positioning from in my understanding, in my experience, from a logistics standpoint, right? When you are going to Belgium, you're really, really going to be in the heart of Europe. Right. So from a market perspective, you're not just constrained by, say, 12 million people roughly in Belgium. That's not what we're talking about. You're talking about a much larger footprint and your ability to access a larger piece of market, which a sum of it is available in a small place, right? So this is one of the reasons why a lot of international companies, when they enter Europe, they first consider entering in Belgium, and you test it out there and then try to sort of use that as a way to expand to the adjacent markets. This is one aspect. Other aspect is, like we all know, Brussels is a true capital of Europe in that sense, with a lot of EU institutions around there. Whoever is looking at regulatory proximity, they would definitely want to be in Brussels to start with. And also, regulated industries when they are trying to get into the European markets, like, say, for example, chemicals, pharma, a lot of those companies, companies belonging to those industrial sectors would definitely want to, look at, Belgium as a definite gateway to enter the market. And also another key aspect over here is the multilingual, the capabilities what Belgium provides. You go to France, for example, you're in a French market. You go to German, you're talking about German. You go to Netherlands, you're in a Dutch market. But here, the regional diversity is really, really providing. Somebody wanted to enter the market to test this regional cultural diversity in a very, very small scale to start with. I have seen companies really using that to their advantage and then going. So I'll stop there, and of course, we'll be happy to answer more questions as we move forward. Thank you. Kanvir, I think you're on mute.
So Dharani, tell us, from your perspective, you are running, Hub Brussels and helping people. Why hasn't, with all these advantages, why hasn't Brussels or Belgium been a first choice for Indian companies? What is holding them back?
So thanks, Kanvir and Vivek and April for having us for the webinar. So we have seen this is my 10th year with Hub Brussels. So I moved back to India in 2017, and then I started helping Belgian companies coming into India initially. And then over the years, I've seen after Brexit and after Trump happened, and then now with the FTA signing, I'm seeing a lot of movement now, but it doesn't correspond to the actual potential of the Indian companies or the actual offerings from the Belgian point of view. And one is primarily Belgians are not really good in advertising themselves to the market. And also, as Alex mentioned, with the diversity in itself. So me and Arne, we work for the Brussels capital region. So we know more of the Brussels capital region, but we also have two other regions, like the north, like Flemish-speaking Flanders, and then French-speaking Wallonia. So that two regions have their own trade agencies of their own. So Belgium is a federal country, but trade is still a regional subject. So that means every region has its own. So if a company comes to me with in chemicals, and then if they want a huge chemical plant set up in Brussels, we can't really help, because Brussels, all it's a really small city. space is a big constraint. Then we advise them to go to our colleagues in Flanders or in Wallonia. So that would be the primary one. Like I can speak more for Brussels. But when it comes to the other Indian companies going, I'm seeing a tremendous increase in companies in the tech sector. Like that's the primary one, like what Brussels is attracting more and more. But I'm also seeing the other companies who just wants to create a European headquarters or an R&D headquarters for the Europe, and then go on to like acquire a plant in Italy or like maybe in Eastern Europe or maybe in Bulgaria. So they want to keep their base really close to the decision making or the lobbying center, for example, because that's where the European Union is, the NATO headquarters, and literally like close to 90% of the EU institutions are in Brussels. So that's one reason. So we don't market ourselves really well. So that's the core answer what I could provide you now.
No, I love that answer, considering that I run a marketing, Marcom company. So I always think marketing is the answer to everything. But Arnie, tell us, where should a person start when he looks at Belgium? Like, tell us a few steps that an MSME or an SME or a medium-sized company should start with a Belgium expansion.
Yeah, first of all, as both Alex and Darani already mentioned, when you're talking about entering Belgium, you shouldn't stop there. Entering a market of 12 million people, honestly speaking, you might as well go elsewhere. So why still choose for Belgium? Because as Alex mentioned, you're looking at the whole of Europe. And why is Belgium a great place to do so? Because the logistics platforms are here. We have the second biggest port of Antwerp just in the north of the country. There's a port of Rotterdam. The majority of all goods entering Western Europe are coming through our ports, through our airports. There are excellent connectivities also even with ports in India. We have a permanent office of representation of the port of Antwerp sitting in Mumbai. So the traders, they know Belgium, they know Netherlands as logistics hubs for Europe. So when you're talking about entering Belgium, you're really talking about entering Europe. And you should leverage basically the central location being squeezed in between Germany, France, even the UK and Netherlands to your advantage. So basically, the tools are there, the infrastructure is there to bring your goods anywhere in Europe. The diversity of the population also plays to your advantage. We already mentioned there are 3 national languages being German, French, and Dutch. English is like a close fourth, I would say, although not official, many people speak it. So when you're talking about SMEs going to Europe, you have to consider entering, just like you're entering India, entering many different markets with different cultures, different languages. And Belgians are most adept at dealing with this diversity because they have the diversity in their own country. So on a practical level, what does it mean? If you're looking to set up a sales office, you're looking to hire one guy who can take care of your French customers, your German customers. The biggest advantage that Belgium can offer you is its workforce. You hire one guy who speaks 3, 4, 5 languages all at once. You pay for one, you get 5 basically. That is the reality on the ground. That is a huge advantage that you'll be able to have from day one. And that's why many times, although Belgium doesn't market itself very well, also for reasons because of its diversity, it's difficult to pin down what Belgium exactly is, I would say. That makes it difficult to brand it. But for people who know Belgium and the advantages that it offers, they manage to leverage them in a major way. And because of its location, logistics, and diversity, you have some distinct things in your hands that you should leverage to enter the whole of Europe, not just Belgium.
So, this is to the entire panel, and we'll take it turn by turn. But what should, a step-by-step go-to-market strategy look like for an Indian firm who doesn't have any footprint in Europe?
Maybe I can start with the GTM one.
Dharani.
Yes. No, but like the companies we encounter on a weekly basis, me and Darne, is like anywhere like a single person startup company till like maybe 150 people, like a manufacturing firm. So that's the scale of the spectrum of companies we look at. And the primary thing, what I would look from the companies, like if they come say, okay, like I want to open a sales and marketing headquarters, or like maybe R&D one, and then I just want to understand like what's their like vision for Europe. Are they just going to create a company just for sake of creating a company? Like in the contact us page, if they want to have like Belgium as a location next to like a Delhi, Dubai, Singapore, and then Belgium, probably that's not the right the strategy to go. But if they look at, okay, like for the product what I have, like if they can add little more value to the European audience, to the European customers, that's the value proposition what they look at. They don't look at the Europeans, or like more specifically the Belgians, they don't look at the age of the company or the workforce of your company. So in Brussels, like the average size of the company is like 2 to 3 people company. If you exclude like the 100-year-old companies, now more like companies are like 2 to 5 people company potentially. And that, like if I introduce a company to some of the consultants in Brussels, they're a startup company, and then they say how many employees are there, like 70, and then they would be amazed. So the first would be the value proposition, what product what they bring in, and then not to overlook on the regulation fit side. Recently I met a medical device company, medtech company, and they took 18 months to like develop a product for the audience, but without keeping in mind the CE markings or the CE certifications or the way to achieve that one. And CE certification in itself will take anywhere between 18 to 24 months to get CE certified. So that means if you're not really clear from day one, if you don't prepare your products, keeping in mind the European audience or the international audience, that would be a big miss. And then, as Arne mentioned, like you're not just going to Belgium just for Belgium, but rather than like conquering the entire Europe, like if you go for a beachhead strategy, just go for like one small market, test it out, and then diversify for the entire Europe. But mostly for the one good thing about EU is like it acts as a single market, and then like literally like all the regulation part like is more or less the similar. Yes, the language changes, and then the application form changes, but like the customs as a whole, like it's a single market in itself. So that will be it. And then I see like more and more companies fail on the trust signals without proper regulation, without proper value proposition. If they approach a client or if they approach a partner, that's where they lack. So if they have that map it out, if the roadmap is clear, it's pretty much easy for them to succeed in Europe in the longer run.
And Alex, do you have some idea? Could you give us some idea about the kind of regulations that Indians require? And then maybe Arnie could talk about a little bit about how do you market? How do you start marketing yourself when you step down from the plane in Brussels? So, Alex, would you like to talk about right from visas, regulations, VAT, bank? Apparently, the banking account it's quite difficult to open a bank account. So, how do we make all of this easier?
Kanwir, probably I will let some of those questions to be answered by Arne. But having said, because they could be more specific on some of these regulatory visa aspects. But I would look at is from my experience of talking to Indian companies, their preparation levels and companies without preparation levels. One thing is a careful planning is very important, right? See, because there is somebody coming and knocking your door, you're not really going to jump in and say that I will come to Europe next time, right? So that is not how a company should be looking at it. So you did use the word, when you get down from the plane, what is it you need to do next? Today, the way in which I see is agencies like Hub Brussels or Flemish agency or Wallonia agency or like so many other countries. So they're all easily accessible and available here today in the country. So as an entrepreneur, when you are looking at exploring this international market, especially this is very, very true in the context of Belgium, you need to do your homework. Right? The homework essentially how to start with looking at, today, what is the objective of going to be in Europe? Is it a customer you want to sell out there? or you're looking at accessing a technology, R&D, development, whatnot. So that clarity is very critical, and agencies like them can very carefully plan, right? The moment you touch down there, you're in the safe hands. If you really start preparing well, I have seen it in first hand, right? Because the first 24 hours, first week, first month experience on the ground is very critical in your decision making process, right? So invariably, if you can plan well, be in touch with some of them well in advance, they will help you to plan your trip there in terms of meeting up with the right set of people, regulatory agencies, banks, institutions, advisors, consultant, even access some of the potential customers if if they're in a position to do that. If you're going there with an intent to with a long-term plan, they can definitely help you. I think if I'm looking at doing that, the first port of call will be one of them to say that, okay, this is what I want to do, and can you help me to lay out some of these things? Number one. Number two, of course, the regulatory requirements are not going to be very different how we experience out here in India. Bank account, in my experience, can be a little tricky because you need to be there in person to do that. Arne can confirm this part to do that. But you could do some amount of remote administration, but it is very important that you need to be out there. The other key aspect, which I would always see, that you need to have a long-term plan. You should not look at any of these markets going there saying that, okay, in the next 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 1 year, I'm going to have a huge success. No, I don't think you should be stepping in. You definitely need to have a long-term plan with patience. And very key thing is you need to have a local person with you. When I say local person, you need to have an employee coming on your board. Like Agnes said, buy one, you get five, if you're lucky, right? Who could not just help in Belgium, in multiple markets. So I think these are very critical. I will leave it to Agne to, continue this discussion.
Arnie, your thoughts, and then I'd also like the panel to tell us a little bit about EU funding, because I think that is very attractive to Indians because we keep hearing about that. So regulations and then funding from any of the panelists.
Yeah, many things that were already touched on. I think practically speaking, if, as Alex mentioned, if you're looking at Europe, the main misconception I see, people come with a 1 or 2 month plan in their mind to conquer this market. Like, you're not going to move very far. Think about a time horizon of a couple of years to move things properly, have a clear idea who your target customers are, do the homework in India, because many of the people that are very eager to come here, they book their flight, they come here on the ground, they haven't done their preparation, they don't know who to talk to, they don't know where to go. Take some weeks, some months of time of desk research in India. Who are my potential customers? Who can I speak with? Which events are happening? Because in Europe, Belgium especially, many people still value face-to-face contact a lot more than online outreach or cold emails. So do your homework, do your preparation, come here with a plan. Contact us, feel free to contact us, me and Dharani, that is. We will be happy to guide you. You can work from our office even for the time that you're here. And we will try to help you access or talk to your potential customers in the most effective way. And that way, you'll be able to get maybe a handful of leads that you can follow up with in the future and turn this into a more lasting foundation for expanding your business. In terms of marketing, I think in India or Indian founders, I see they come with a lot of enthusiasm to conquer this new market. That enthusiasm is very much valued, of course. But one thing that you have to keep in mind is specifically for Belgium, but even for our neighboring countries like Germany or Netherlands, people like it when you are very honest. You don't have to exaggerate the functionalities of your product or your service. You can just be honest and straightforward and say, we are different in so and so way, but don't oversell too much because it creates distrust. It creates a feeling of, I don't know if this guy is telling me the truth. It's better to to under-promise and over-deliver rather than the other way around. Because in India, my feeling has been that working in the private field, many times people, they paint very promising pictures and then the delivery sometimes leaves some gaps. And in India, it works. People know that this is how business works. In Europe, you will face boundaries or walls very quickly. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, in terms of communication, when you're writing emails, keep it so to the point and short as possible, because the amount of long emails that we have asked founders to rewrite or to reapproach is countless. So these are some practical things to keep in mind. On the regulation side, Europe has some of the strongest regulations in the world in terms of AI, GDPR compliance, CE markings. These are tough procedures, but with the proper guidance, you will be able to get through them. Once you have the certifications in place, you're almost have an open avenue to do business anywhere else in the world, because you'll already have faced the most strict regulations possible. So for rollout in the Middle East or other regions, if you have done your homework twice, you don't have to do it multiple times. And then what was on funding, on the third part on funding, that's a very critical topic that me and Darren discuss a lot upon. We see a lot of, especially tech startups, come to Europe with the ideas of raising a lot of innovation grants. Horizon Europe is a very big project that's well known. What's very important to know, especially on the side of innovation grants are granted by the local or regional or European governments for research that's taking place in Europe. This is money you don't have to pay back. So for them to fund R&D that's happening in India, that's never going to happen. So whenever you're thinking of applying for innovation grants, realize that it means you have to have researchers here on the ground. Researchers here on the ground are quite expensive. Although with the grants you can leverage a little bit on that side. There are interesting tax incentives. So there's high quality research. There are innovation grants available, but it has to be utilized here. When it comes to venture capital, that's the second type of funding that many times is discussed. Same thing actually. People or venture capital funds over here, they want to see IPs, they want to see value being created in Europe or in your Belgian subsidiary or company. Very few of them would be willing to invest in a faraway market like India. There are exceptions, but typically, if you're looking to leverage venture capital here, try to create some IPs, try to create value, do more than just be a sales office. We're just running a sales office over here and trying to leverage venture capital. You're again not going to go very far. So it has to be a story of value creation locally, and then these tools are available and very effective as well.
That's a lot of information. Dharini, would you like to add something to this in terms of
Yes.
grants or raising funds or even actual actual anecdotes? I would love to hear from the panel about actual anecdotes which they have experienced, especially with the Indian companies. What went right, what went wrong? Sometimes without taking names, it would be a lot of learning for people who are wanting to walk that path.
No, indeed, like just to stress on the marketing aspect, like the go-to-market strategy aspect. Like one thing, what I see lacking from the Indian founders themselves is like, which I want to see them rectify in the coming days, is like they're not leveraging the Indian embassies abroad at all. So Indian embassies and Indian consulates abroad at all. So when they see, okay, an Indian embassy or Indian consulate, they just see, okay, like it's just for visa. So visa consular section is one part, but like there is also the second, like the vital section called the trade department. So for example, like the Belgian embassy like the Indian embassy in Brussels, for example, it's for Belgium, Luxembourg, and for the entire European Union. So I believe they have for agriculture as well, and then broadly for the all the trade between India and Belgium, or India, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the EU. So even before reaching out to any of the agencies like Hub Brussels or FIT or Wallonia or NFIA, for example, it's easier for them to reach right to the Indian trade agency within the Indian embassy or the consulate, let them know, okay, like this is my ideal customer profile, this is my like past success or my testimonial from a European customer. You can be exporting like garments from South India, or like you can be an automotive part manufacturer, and then it's easy for them to write to the Indian counterparts of us, and then get more contacts. If people contact us and say, okay, like I'm a garment exporter, like can you get me the buyers list in Belgium? It's we don't have access. It doesn't mean like we don't want to do that, but like we don't have access for the data. But like who has the data? The Indian counterpart. So it's paid by, like my salary is paid by the Belgian taxpayers' money. Similarly, our taxpayers' money is being paid for the diplomats abroad. So like I want more and more Indian companies reaching them, and they have all the database of, for example, like if a agri exporter wants to know like what exactly is the regulation behind sending like spinach, for example. We don't know exactly what's the regulation, what's the phytosanitary certifications required, but the Indian embassy colleagues will have, and then even if they don't have the exact data points, they will get you the data points. So that's what I want to see more and more Indian founders or the Indian entrepreneurs going. On the funding part, like as Arne mentioned, funding or the grant follows your local presence or your local activity. So startups come to me and say, okay, like I have an AI product. It's really interesting, but like it's because like if they don't, they don't just invest on a sales office. So like it has to be like on a step by step. Initially, go with the pilot project. Maybe if you're a product company, go with the pilot launch, and then with hiring, and then with incorporating a company, and then go for funding. As Arne mentioned, if you don't have a runway of 12 to 24 months, given like you don't generate any revenue at all for the first 12 months, if you have enough cash to survive the 12 months, then you're ready for Europe, not just for Belgium, for the entire Europe.
Wow. So, Alex, are there any specific, I would love to go into some specific case study, of great success that you handled and who are now in Belgium and doing well, and some failure, even without a name, which you might have for the audience, and what went wrong?
I've seen, a number of case studies, and this is predominantly from the tech services world, which I've seen, using Brussels as a stepping, and then try and building the entire Europe. I've seen that. Probably, I would probably pick on one specific case where, unfortunately, they had to close down the operations along the way, or rather reducing it, and they had to retract the whole model. Was one of the sort of product companies. When I say product, it's a B2B company. I don't want to go into a lot more specifics for obviously for confidentiality reasons, but in the larger food products agri area, and see what they have done is they essentially got into they had a representative over there in Belgium, and then they used that as an opportunity to create a company. But what happened was, everything was entirely, the way in which I understood was left to the person without really the Indian promoters backing it in that particular space. And along the way, what I understood was, the moment there was a separation happened, there was nobody to sort of continue that, business plans out there. And maintenance of a legal entity, a lot of the such things all of a sudden came up. So the point over there was the point over there was the company which did that was a reasonably sized company, right? So the effort, or while the intent was very very positive and what they wanted to do, etc. The idea of a long-term planning we felt was missing in this process, right? So the moment there was the churn which happened, they couldn't really reinvent the whole the cycle of having people out there trying to do this. So one thing which I realized was you could always expect a cultural difference when you're entering these markets, right? So I think Arne was trying to say that in terms of promise less and deliver more, that could also happen in the context of maybe even employees, right? I've seen this in terms of what is that you want to give them, short term, medium term, long term, because you are in a new market and they're trying to help you to win in that market. So that clarity is very, very critical. Otherwise, cultural differences can, pop up along the way, which could lead to business, being failure. I don't want to use the word failure, but not satisfactory outcomes in this process, right? And second area is very, very critical, underestimating the regulatory requirements of product entry, market entry. Right? So some of, especially the regulatory industries, the products can be a bit tricky. So you need to do the real homework before you take any product-based business to, not just in Belgium, in any of the European market. I'm sure that, but a lot of Indians are already, exporting and being very successful in a variety of areas. But the moment you move that into a localized entity form, then migrating that product ownerships, IP, a number of such factors will become critical. Maybe I will very quickly add one more point on the employment aspects. Again, the work-life balance and how you treat them, etc., could be very different in terms of how you look at an Indian being employed in an Indian company versus probably a European being employed in the Indian subsidiary of an Indian company in Europe. I'm sure again. For newcomers and for the people who are doing this for the first time, obviously there are quite a bit of learnings which you may undergo in this process.
And that's a good place to segue on to Arnie, because don't let his looks fool you. He's actually spent time in India and in some of the most intense states, Gujarat, and tell us a little bit about how you compare your experience in India with your advice to people coming to Belgium, and if you had some real anecdotes.
Some anecdotes. So I came to India for the first time in 2019, and I stayed around for about 4 years. My first entry point into India was in Baroda in Gujarat. Now, Gujarat is a very interesting place that I didn't know much about, but the link with Belgium is, of course, the diamond industry. In Baroda especially, also it's very well known for the recruitment services towards US companies and whatnot. And in terms of what I didn't know was that Gujaratis are among the best businessmen in India. And and every interaction that I was having with my colleagues and whatnot was very much also they were very business savvy in the smallest ways, very peculiar ways of going out for food or arranging some coffees and whatnot. And in many ways, it reminds me of the Dutch people in Europe. They're kind of having the same type of mindset. So these type of things, it stays with me even after coming back to Belgium. After my time in Gujarat, I spent some time in Pune, in Maharashtra, which is a hub for many German manufacturing companies in the automotive sector and so. And in general, I found, Indian founders are extremely ambitious, and that's a thing. Many of you speak English. That's also something. I work for the whole APAC region. I can tell you have some definite strengths to enter into international business that other countries don't have, and you should leverage those to the fullest. And coming into Europe, don't necessarily have to change yourself. Just make sure that you take some learnings from the time you spent here and try to attend as many events as possible.
So how do you see the behavior in a polite way, in the most polite way possible, of the attitude, behavior of Indians, and what could we do better, or what could an entrepreneur do better when he goes to Belgium? What are the things which the pieces of wisdom or advice which you would like to give him?
Maybe some small things, but because our country is often overlooked between our bigger neighbors, we do appreciate it when people learn a little bit, or if you pick up a few words of French, of Dutch, it will get you a lot of sympathy and goodwill up front to open up the door. Know like little stories like the French fries, know about the beer, the chocolates. We like hearing these things. It's very pleasant. Or the story about Tintin. We are very proud of this type of heritage things, and many people around the world don't know they are originally from Belgium. So just as a conversation opener, study a little bit about the culture. Try to find things that genuinely interest you. You don't have to fake your enthusiasm for things, but we really appreciate it if people do some effort to get to know the country. And it's a great way to open a conversation. And after that, as I mentioned, humility is one of the most important values here in Belgium. People don't like bragging behavior or don't like arrogance. So if you stay true to yourself and you present yourself in a true way, then things will only go well for you.
Dharani, any experiences or anecdotes which you have with Indian companies which you wish you would be able to tell them, or words of advice post your experience?
My advice would be to have more structure and less jugaad. So Indians, like, we operate on jugaad. So we have an attitude of like, why to fix if it's not broken attitude. But like in Europe, it's similar to the driving, the traffic sense, and then the driving. So we see, like, when they hear like a regulation, they feel okay, it's a concrete wall. But in my opinion, it's not just a concrete wall; it's more like a guardrail. It's there just to protect the EU citizens and then the business alike. So it's not just a brick wall, so that like it's not like helping the business. It's not that. So when GDPR came, like everyone was really like worried. Like I know Alex was there. Like we did a road show from like Chennai, Hyderabad, Bangalore during that time with an attorney. But like imagine like what happened after a few years. Now like with the DPDP regulations, it's more or less GDPR, but with an Indian twist. So like I would urge like every Indian entrepreneur to be like more structured. That's what, like, even if they see okay, like it takes like 2 years to enter a different market, but that means like if they put the effort for 2 years, that means like they can be successful on the longer run. But with the jugaad, they can land like one or two anchor client, but it won't go too far.
Great. We could go on talking about it, and I think the conversation is endless, but we have a time stop. But so as a last question, I would like the panel to tell us about, if Indian MSMEs remember just one thing from today before entering Belgium, what do you think your one piece of advice would be from all this conversation? Alex?
I think, structure and planning is critical. Do not jump in. Careful planning is very critical before you go in.
Dharani?
No, like again, I would stress on the planning aspect, but planning and then be realistic one, and then don't fall prey for the peer pressure. Oh, like my like relative, he has a company in Netherlands or in Germany, so I want to have one in Europe. So don't go by that one as well. But approach all the avenues, all the governmental agencies, the companies who have done like phenomenally well in the recent past. It doesn't have to be like even a failed founder would be like I shut down two of my startups when I studied in Poland and in Belgium. So I know like what are the not to do ones, but I'm glad to share my like how not to run a business kind of one. I see now more and more entrepreneurs are really open. So they're willing to share their the so-called playbook now, like compared to 10 years ago. Networking is one. There are a lot of like Indians who are living in Europe, Indian students studying in Europe. So use them to like maybe employ them as interns. Who knows? Like they might be their first hires in Europe. To use the networking one, planning one, and then being realistic. So that's my advice.
And Arnie, any final advice?
Yeah, I would agree with the two previous statements. Maybe understand, just like India, Europe is a very diverse place. Take your time to familiarize yourself with the culture, with the languages. It's not one size fits all type of approach you would have in the US, for example. It is though a market with a lot of potential, and the funding and the grants and just the sheer wealth that companies have over here. They will be happy to partner up with Indian businesses. There's a lot of good momentum going on. So do your homework, find the right partners, and study. There's no easy way out, unfortunately, but it will pay off in the long run if you dedicate your time.
That's great. I mean, the one thing which I think we all it came together was to have a lot of planning. So planning is so important, and it's just like it's a complex world, it's a complex country, but it's also a fun country, just like the beers. Like 1,500 types of beers in Belgium, and not only that. There's an actual discussion about which glass goes with which beer, and even on the height of the foam is actually a discussion point and a debating point. So that says a lot about Belgium. They go very deep into what they do. They do it very well, and it's very planned out in a very strategized way. So if you have that perspective in mind, if you know your beers and if you know how to handle the beers of Belgium, you'll know how to handle the economy and the industry of Belgium. So with that, I'll hand it over to April, and thank you so much for this great conversation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanveer. Before I end the session, I just wanted to check if you have 5 minutes to take up the couple of questions that have come in the chat box.
Sorry, I was looking at the chat box, but I seem to have missed a few. Did I miss?
The last two questions. I can read it out if you want.
Yeah, please do.
What is the current state of the Belgian IT market in 2026? And what strategic roadmap should an Indian IT firm follow to successfully establish a presence and compete?
No, I will just take this like really brief. So the Belgian IT, like there are into two sectors. Like one, like the public institutions are one of the proper clients as well. So like all the big Indian IT consulting firms, like starting from Tech Mahindra, Infosys, CTS, everyone is there. So the primary ones are like they work with all the big the financial institutions like Belfius Bank or KBC. And then the second one, what Indian IT companies should look at, they are the other EU in public institutions, what like Indian companies doesn't have a lot of experience in. It can be with NATO or it can be with other regional trade agencies. And then setting up the roadmap is really simple. Like get one anchor client. It can be even if it's an IT service industry, getting one anchor client and then replicating that would be much more easier than setting up a company initially and then sending one person. So I know like we didn't discuss the visa part, so that's still another critical aspect. So if you set up a company, that doesn't mean like you can automatically like send your employees from India to Belgium. So that's one other thing like you have to be really clear. The roadmap is really simple from our side. If they have anchor clients, like imagining they are like talking about the service industry, getting an anchor client and then replicating the same ICP across Europe, and then setting up a company later on. That would be the one.
Yeah, and setting up a company, because people imagine that it's some type of major investment you have to do in office space and whatnot, we never advise that initially. What we advise is go with a very minimal setup. Try to look for an address registered at a business or a co-working center. Operate a company mostly remotely, or if you have to have boots on the ground, hire one business developer or so, and start without making a lot of expenses initially till you have that recurring revenue to sustain yourself long term. So there's no need when we're talking about setting up to roll out the big red carpet and make all kinds of commitments towards renting contracts of big office spaces or so, or hiring 10 people on the payroll. That's really to avoid at all costs. Start slow, start small. There's nothing wrong with that, and build it up gradually.
Okay, there's one more question. How can academic institutions in India support those who are doing business or planning for business in Belgium?
No, it can be like, for example, like I interact with a lot of the nodal agencies in India, like starting from like Startup TN or like Karnataka or like Kerala Startup Mission, for example. So most of the institutions, they have their own incubators or accelerators. So we work even from an idea stage level, like we would advise them for the incubators or the startups within the incubator. So we engage a lot with, as hub.brussels as an agency, we work with a lot of the academic institutions on that front. Maybe like if they have a set of startups, if they want to for us to add a little more value, so we'll be glad to do that.
Yeah, maybe on a practical sense, what does it mean? We organize a lot of roadshows in India together with these partners. We receive delegations on a regular basis. Just last year, we did a delegation with your Ministry of Electronics, with METI Startup Hub. There were around 15 entrepreneurs, deep tech entrepreneurs who were here for a week. So these type of programs we're doing on a regular basis. We involve the academic institutions in India and in Brussels in that story. So we're actually working very closely with some of the renowned universities here in Brussels and research institutions. And when these entrepreneurs come with some projects in mind, we're always happy to make the connection and to see, coming back to the story of the grants, whether they can apply for a joint grant, for example, or whether they can develop some new technology together. So if you have a product or a project in mind that would work better in Europe than in India, that could be a great starting point to figure out your steps into the European market. Because to give maybe one anecdote of a company which I think did the approach very well. This is a company from Tamil Nadu. They had a technology that would help big corporates with reporting on their carbon emissions. Sustainability is a big topic in Europe, maybe more than anywhere else in the world. And they saw an opportunity of bringing this AI product into the European market. They teamed up with Capgemini in India, and the India team, they reached out to the Belgian entity, and they were planning a joint rollout of this AI product in Europe through this partnership. Additionally, the founder, was planning to shift his family to Brussels. We helped him with the application for the visa. He was applying for innovation grants and venture capital at the same time. So if there is a product market fit, if you're clear on what you want, if you have the right partners in place, these things can all happen. But as said again and again, it requires preparation and it requires a proper approach. Not any product will just work or make these things happen. So be clear on what you want, and then things can go very fast and very effectively.
Okay. I'm just taking one last question in the chat. What's the power condition in Belgium on stability, fluctuations, and would also like to know how the Wi-Fi router usage is.
Danny, I wouldn't know honestly. In terms of power stability, I think it's.
I don't think that's a kind of given.
Not a problem.
We don't have. I mean, one doesn't even have voltage stabilizers in Europe. One just takes power directly from the socket. In fact, a long time ago, almost 40 years ago, my father went to Europe and somebody asked him, he asked somebody, what do you want? And they told him they wanted a stabilizer, a voltage stabilizer. And he went and he couldn't find a voltage stabilizer like 50 years ago. So I don't think there's any fluctuation. And I used to work for a bank. I mean, I was an investment banker, and our computers, we were handling. I mean, my team was handling $500 million funds, and the power plugs went directly into the socket. There was no UPS. There was nothing. There was no generator. Just one day out of the many months and years that I was there, one day we had a notice saying that the power will be shut down. And that was for a few hours. And that's a very notified shutdown. And it was a very big thing. And it was a very, it was a big break in business. But 3-4 hours, they came and shut it down. And so I don't think there's any power fluctuation discussion in Europe.
All right. So that brings us to the end of today's session, the 9th episode of Discovery Series on doing business in Belgium. And the panelists have so well explained why Belgium is the perfect gateway into the European market. Thank you so much, Mr. Arne, Mr. Dharnidharan, Mr. Alex, for giving such interesting insights and very solid key takeaways also. I did note down some points like, how under promising and over delivering is the key, and that's what works best over there. So thank you, all of you, for sharing your insights. Thank you, Mr. Karnveer, for the excellent moderation, like every time. I like how you started and ended the conversation on beer. And
Arnie said I should know Belgium and I should know, Tintin, and so
yes.
I hope I hit the right notes.
Whatever.
I also take this opportunity to thank our event partner, BCIC, who has been partnering with us for the entire series. And special thanks to Mr. Shamant for joining us today and setting the context for this session. And thank you to all the participants who have been engaging throughout and sharing your questions to make it even more interesting. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining. I will be putting out a post on LinkedIn about this session where all the panelists will be tagged as well. So you can use that platform to connect with them and to share your feedback and comments. Plus, stay tuned for our 10th episode. We're planning something special for the next episode. So stay tuned and thank you once again. Have a good day.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye. Thank you.